Have you ever bought something small, maybe a coffee, a new shirt, or a meal out, and immediately felt that familiar wave of guilt wash over you? It's strange, isn't it? The purchase wasn't irresponsible, it wasn't expensive, it wasn't even impulsive. But still, something inside you tightens. You feel like you did something wrong. Today, I want to show you why that happens and why your guilt around spending money has almost nothing to do with the price of the thing you bought. Let's start with a moment you've probably lived before. You're standing in a store holding something you genuinely like. You check the price. It's affordable. You can buy it without hurting your budget. But your brain whispers, do you really need this? Should you be spending right now? What if this is irresponsible? You put the item back. You walk away. And even though you didn't buy it, the guilt stays. This is the part nobody talks about. Guilt doesn't come from spending money. Guilt comes from your past. Let me explain. Most people who feel guilty spending grew up in one of two environments. One, a household where money was tight, unpredictable, or stressful. Two, a household where spending was judged, criticized, or labeled as irresponsible. If you grew up hearing phrases like, money doesn't grow on trees, we can't afford that, you're wasting money, why would you buy that? Then your brain learned something powerful at a young age. Spending equals danger. Even if your adult life is financially stable, your nervous system still reacts like you're that child trying not to cause problems. This is why guilt shows up even when the purchase is small. Your brain isn't reacting to the price, it's reacting to the memory. But there's a second layer, and this one is even more important. Guilt appears when your identity doesn't match your actions. If you see yourself as responsible, careful, or disciplined, then any purchase that feels slightly emotional or spontaneous can trigger guilt because it feels like you're breaking your own rules. This is called identity dissonance, and it's one of the strongest emotional forces in behavioral finance. Here's an example. Imagine you've been trying to save more. You've been budgeting, you've been cutting back, you've been proud of yourself. Then one day, you buy something small, maybe a snack, a drink, or a little treat. Suddenly, guilt hits you like a wave. Not because the purchase was wrong, but because your brain thinks you're ruining your progress. This is identity dissonance in action. But here's the truth. You're not ruining anything. You're not irresponsible. You're not failing. You're human. And your brain is trying to protect you using outdated rules. Now let's talk about the third piece of the guilt puzzle, expectations. Most people carry invisible expectations about how they should behave with money. I should save more. I should spend less. I should be more disciplined. I should avoid unnecessary purchases. These expectations create a mental checklist, and every time you buy something that doesn't fit perfectly into that checklist, guilt appears. Not because the purchase was wrong, but because you broke an expectation that wasn't even realistic. So let's put all of this together. The reason you feel guilty spending money comes from what I call the guilt triangle. 1. Past experiences, childhood scarcity, criticism, or instability. 2. Identity, wanting to be responsible and fearing you're not. 3. Expectations, unrealistic rules about how you should behave. When these three overlap, guilt becomes automatic. But here's the good news. You can fix this, and it doesn't require spending less. It doesn't require budgeting harder. It doesn't require cutting out every small joy in your life. It requires changing the story your brain tells itself. Let me show you how. Step 1. Separate the purchase from the emotion. When guilt appears, pause and ask, is this guilt about the item or about my past? Most of the time, the guilt is old. It's a memory, not a warning. This simple question breaks the automatic reaction. Step 2. Replace identity dissonance with identity alignment. Instead of saying, I shouldn't have bought this, say, I can be responsible and still enjoy small purchases. This rewires your identity so spending doesn't feel like a threat. Step 3. Rewrite your expectations. Your expectations should support your life, not punish you. A healthy expectation sounds like, I spend intentionally, and small joys are part of my financial plan. This removes the invisible pressure that creates guilt. Step 4. Use the 95-5 rule. 95% of your financial progress comes from big decisions. Housing, transportation, debt, savings rate, investing habits. The remaining 5% comes from small purchases. Guilt usually attacks the 5%, but your financial life is built on the 95%. This perspective dissolves guilt instantly. Step 5. Practice permission spending. Set aside a small amount each month, even 20 euros or 50 euros, that is guilt-free. This tells your brain, spending is safe. I am in control. Over time, guilt fades. Step 6. Use reflective spending. After a purchase, ask, did this improve my day, my life, or my well-being? If the answer is yes, the purchase was aligned. If the answer is no, it's a learning moment, not a guilt moment. Step 7. Build emotional safety around money. Guilt disappears when your nervous system feels safe. You can create that safety by tracking your money calmly, building a small emergency fund, automating your savings, using simple systems instead of strict rules. When your financial environment feels stable, guilt loses its power. Let's close with a moment of clarity. You don't feel guilty because you spent money. You feel guilty because your brain is trying to protect you using old stories. But you're not that child anymore. You're not living in scarcity. You're not irresponsible. You're not failing. You're learning. You're growing. You're building a healthier relationship with money. And every time you spend intentionally, even on something small, you're rewriting the story your brain has been carrying for years. You deserve financial peace. You deserve emotional safety. And you deserve to enjoy your life without guilt. Let's build that together.